waiting for Artie to log in, and I will add her. There she goes. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hello. How you doing?
I've been wonderful. How are you today?
I'm good. The weather in New York is cold. I don't know what that is about, but I'm making it work.
Yeah, that is crazy. Yeah, somebody was saying how crazy the weather is all over the place, and it's like, what's going on right now?
Yeah, I was like, New York. Did you know I put away my winter coats already? I'm not doing this.
No, it's not supposed to be cold.
Usually, no, it's not supposed to be cold. I have, this is my drink of choice for today, a little baby Negroni.
I have
Oh,
a
what's you got the big guns. All right, cool.
listen homeschool hashtag homeschool.
All right,
Um,
we're gonna talk about that too.
yes, so vodka and seltzer water with the lime.
All right, yes, that's refreshing, and you got the lime, so it's like detoxing. It's a whole situation. So you
This
good.
whole it's a system. It's a system.
All right, so today is your time to shine. I'm just gonna do a quick introduction of Storied, and then we're gonna dive into some questions. Cool.
Okay,
All right,
sounds
so
good.
welcome. I'm gonna remember to save the video this time so we can share it after. This is another episode of Story. Today we're gonna talk about motherhood and identity. It is Mother's Day weekend, and we thought it'd be a good time to give exposure to mothers and talk about their journey and their joys and their struggles, and the things that keep them up at night, literally. I started Story 4 years ago as a platform for women to have conversations about things that matter.
Hmm.
And with that, I'm going to welcome Artie. Tell us a little bit about your journey of motherhood. How long have you been a mother? How many children do you have? What are their names?
Okay, so for me, a little bit about myself really quickly. I feel like I've been meant to be a mother my whole life, and I know it sounds strange, but I think I've always wanted to be a mom. I think I've always just had a nurturing side to myself, genuinely, and so for me, I knew that having children was something I always wanted to do. I am in South Florida right now. I'm originally from Alabama. Went to school in Tennessee at Austin Peay State University, and then I went to Southern Illinois, then moved down up to Western, and then down to Miami, which is when I became a mom. So both of my kids were born in Miami-Dade County. They are 305 boys all day long. It's crazy. I have two biological children that I actually birthed, and then I would say a host of other people who I consider kids who are now grown up, who have, I've watched them grow up and they're friends now. And then I have an amazing godson. His name is Caleb, and goddaughter who's on the way. And she'll be here in September. So I'm super excited about that as well. So as far as biological kids, LeVar Jr., he is 14. He is about 6 feet tall, almost 6'1".
Wow.
And
They were so
Andre,
small
who,
the last time I saw them.
yes, and he literally just turned 14 April the 16th. And then Andre, who won't be 12 until June the 30th, he actually is about about 5, 6 and a half. So I have some pretty huge kids. I call them my not so little giants. So,
Yeah, and you have two boys, and we'll talk about that. I added a question to the list. It just came to me today. We'll talk about that
for
in a
sure.
second. Um, so I asked you to tell me about your journey as a mother, and you shared a little bit of overall who you are, which I appreciate because I got super specific. And that's a good segue to my first question, which is what would you say is the most important part of your identity?
Um, that's so tough, and that's why I was really excited about this conversation because I think the default answer for anybody who has a child, whether you birthed a child or it was a
Mm-hmm.
surrogate or if it was adopted or whatever the case may be, the default is motherhood. But I think my answer in that I'm discovering in the journey that I'm on is my womanhood, because it encompasses all of who I am as a mother, as a wife, as a person who navigates, the world that we live in. And so
Yeah.
to me, kind of the easy answer is the most important part of my identity is being a mom. And if even if you look at like my social media and stuff like that, it's
Mm-hmm.
mom first and then wife and blah blah blah. But I think as I've had this period, it kind of started a little bit before the quarantine, but actually during this period, I've really figured out that, okay, my womanhood, and especially being a Black woman and how I present in society, is probably the most important part of my identity. And then everything else kind of works through that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I was at work this week. I was talking to one of the women on my team on the concept of intersectionality and how that's been so powerful for me because it doesn't force you to just have to be one thing. It's the intersection of things
Absolutely.
that actually matters.
Absolutely.
And it gives you a language to start to explore those other parts of yourself that you maybe hadn't because you were like, oh, I'm Black, or I'm a woman, or I'm a mother, instead of like, I'm Black, a woman, a mother, I'm an educator, I'm an
Right.
AKA, and being able to tell
And
that
you can't
story.
separate those things. You can't. Like I double negative here. I'm never not going to be a Black woman who is a mother. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
regardless of whatever happens in my life, I'm always going to be that thing, and you can't take one without the other. Like they go together.
yeah. Would you say so? This was the prompt that I put out that kind of inspired this, and this came from Koyo. So thank you, Koyo. Um, would you say that you grieve the shift of existing in the world as your own woman to moving into the role of a mother?
Grieve, no. Had to come to an understanding that I could be both, yes. So, do I miss air quotes my old life? No, because like I said, I've always, envisioned being a mom, and that's not everybody's journey. That's not something that everybody wants to do, and that's okay. And I respect that 1,000%. But it's something that I know that I've always wanted to do. So, do I feel like I grieve it? No, but here's the thing. I feel like, and you shared a lot of articles with me, which were amazing. But I feel like a lot of times we have to choose. Like society puts pressures on us to say, okay, you're a mom now, so you can't do X. You're a mom now,
Yeah,
so
that's
you can't
real.
do Y. And it's like, no, I can be a mom and I can still have a hot girl summer. So don't get it twisted. Like it's okay as long as I'm taking care of home and responsibilities. That's this box. And then me doing something else is another box. But society says you have to be this way and toe this line and act like this, because if you don't, then you're not a mom, or not a mom. You're not a good mom.
Oh, that's real. Man, I'm like, we need more time because that whole thing about going, I've seen it. I've seen it and it breeds shame and it's disrespectful and it's a lot of assumptions too because you don't know somebody's situation.
You
You
don't.
have no
You
idea and there's
absolutely
a
don't.
lot of judgment that goes into that and I can't imagine, obviously speaking as a non-mother and welcome everybody that joined. I sent you a wave if you've seen it. I think for people that aren't moms yet, like me, I just kind of came to a realization this year that I want children, but some of the hesitation has been this idea of like, there's certain things you have to leave behind. There's certain things you
Hmm.
won't be anymore, or they like you can't do the hot girl summer. You can't wear have your booty out in a swimsuit, and it still happens in 2020.
And so for me, I disagree like wholeheartedly with that. I do believe that there's a level of respect that you have to have, especially if you're in a relationship, if you're married, if you're with someone. So there is a level of respect and decorum that you have. But again, I don't think that anybody's out here carrying themselves crazy, if you will. I do believe
Yeah,
that there is that judgment and there is that shame that's placed upon moms because, oh, you have kids. Why are you out here doing X, Y, Z? Well, I'm not out here, busting it wide open. But if I want to go to a club or if I want to have a drink with my friends at a bar, I don't think that should be a problem. I feel like there shouldn't be that level of, because there's enough shame and enough guilt that you put on yourself as a mom, because you always compare yourself, whether you want to or not. You end up comparing yourself to X person over here. Well, this person's kids are doing this, or this mom does all of these things and whatever. So why am I not measuring up to this imaginary bar that we set in our heads? And so for me, no, I finally got to a space where I was like, judge your mammy, because I'm gonna do me and I'm gonna be okay. And as long as the kids are okay, then that's what it is. And so I'm not gonna sit here and apologize for wanting to go have drinks with my friends. I'm not going to apologize for wanting to go to a concert or want to go and hang out. Again, I do believe that there's a level of decorum and there's a level of respect that you have for your partner, and that you always make sure home is taken care of. But yeah, if I want to go drop it like it's hot every once in a while, then that's what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna bring it on back home and make some breakfast and keep it pushing.
Yeah. And that goes back to that concept of like your whole self and the intersection, right? Because you could still be the woman
Absolutely.
dropping it like it's hot on the weekend and go home and cook breakfast. It's not like all of a sudden you don't know to cook breakfast because had a drink, right? That doesn't change. Speaking of, who do that?
Hello. Right.
I love that so much of like, and this is a journey I've been on, like how different parts of yourself can coexist and how you can be more honest about those parts.
Absolutely.
You know?
But I think that's a hard truth, though. I think the hard truth is that we want to be this cookie cutter image of what we have been told is the way to go. But I know I can speak for myself, and I always like to share when I talk to like my students and friends. It's like, this is my lived experience. Like I can't tell you how to be, because you're, like you said earlier, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're dealing. I can tell you what worked for me, and I can
Yeah.
say, hey, this is what worked for me. However, do what works for you, because I think that have been programmed to look at this as the standard, whatever this is, fill in the blank, whatever that is. But we don't take the time to just understand that what worked for this person, because their journey is so different than mine, may not work for me. And I think that's one of the things that I learned about being a mom early on, is that I had a lot of advice from people that are like, what do I do? What do I do? Or, oh, this is what you should do. This is what you should do. And I'm like, none of that shit works for me. Sorry. Like, none of that works. Like, those are not my kids. That's not how they operate. So the best advice that I give, and I know we're going to get to this later, is do what works for you. And that's in any scenario. Do what works for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's good. I'm gonna talk to my sister after this. I saw she just joined, and I'm sure she will resonate. She's also raising two black children. This idea of like getting all this advice and people telling you what used to work for them in the old days, and you try and it's like, but you didn't know this child, did you? You were dealing with a different child.
But you
Yeah.
can't raise kids the way that kids were raised back then, because that's not the world that we live in now. And that, the sooner we come to the reality of, yeah, that worked then, because that's the world that you all lived in. That's not the world that we live in. That's not the world that we exist in. That's not how we can maneuver and teach our kids, because what you dealt with and how things were, that's not it.
It's
That's
changed.
not what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, and so for you, you have children that you're now homeschooling, spending probably more time with than you ever expected. That's a new reality. There's a lot of people that can't give you any advice because we're all in this thing now and it's new.
Oh, I
Brand
resigned
new.
from homeschool teaching. I submitted my official letter of resignation. I told my children, I said, I don't care. I already have 2 degrees and I'm working on the last one. So y'all can be stupid if you want to. I quit. And God bless all the teachers. There's a special place in heaven for all the teachers, because I never would have imagined. I only made it 5 weeks. Um, and then I quit. I submitted an official letter of resignation to my husband. I said, I resign. Thank you
I
for the experience. I appreciate it. I'm out.
That's fair. That's fair. Shout out to the teachers, by the way, because I know it's not easy and they're doing it all day, every day. And I love that you actually wrote a letter of recommendation. That's so real.
No, I did. I was like, I quit. I'm not doing this. I can't. We're gonna all fail together. I got a sixth grader and an eighth grader. It's been years. I'm not gonna say how many years, but it's been a whole lot of years since I was in sixth or eighth grade. So guess what? Call your teacher. I quit. I told my mama, you need to come get your grandkids. I'm tired of babysitting.
They're yours now. I love that. Hi, Jelly. Welcome to all the moms that join. Having a good conversation with Artie so far. Um, so, talking about the letter of resignation for homeschooling, which I totally understand. How do you navigate your personal needs and balancing that with parental responsibilities?
So, so personal for me, it really is about balance. It is about having a schedule. And again, not my schedule, whatever works for you. So when I say schedule, I don't say, I'm not telling people follow Artie's schedule. I'm saying do what works for you, do what works for your household. And so for me personally, I need my time to myself. I need my time to go take a walk or to just be by myself or whatever the case may be. I'm an extreme extrovert, so I love people. However,
Yeah.
I have two very different kids. And so what works for one doesn't work for the other. And so I have to balance that in addition to, okay, got work, got husband, got kids that are both different, got myself. That's five different people that I have to take into account in terms of scheduling stuff. So it's
Mm,
really about balance. It's really about who needs what when, and then just making time to ensure that everyone has those pieces that they need, but
yeah.
not neglecting me in the process. And I think so many times we as women, as mothers, neglect us in the care of other people. One of the articles that you sent that I loved was talking about moms as martyrs, and I think
Mm-hmm.
we wear that as a badge of honor sometimes. It's like, oh, like I give up this and I don't have time for this and I don't have time for that and this, that, and the third. No. Uh I say this all the time and I want to say it now. Fuck these kids. Like I need my me time. I'm gonna go
I
walk.
didn't expect that.
I okay, I'm gonna go take a walk. I'm gonna go and do something for me, just for me. And don't get me wrong, like I love them and they're never gonna go without. And hopefully, God willing, I can provide all of their needs and as many of their wants as I can. But
Yeah.
at a point, like, and I say this jokingly, but like dead ass seriously, like we get so consumed with our kids once we become moms that we completely forget about ourselves to sometimes to our own detriment because we're not taking those moments of self-care. If it's 5 minutes of meditation, if it's a 20-minute walk around the block just to recenter yourself, we miss those things. And then we lose our identity because our identity then becomes our kids' identity. So you think about the moms who, and I don't have daughters, but the example I'll use is, oh, they wanted to be on the dance line, or they wanted to be cheerleaders, or they wanted to be this or that. They didn't make it, but their daughter can make it. And so now they're living vicariously through their child,
Yeah.
and they're pushing their child to do all of this stuff because they couldn't achieve those things. Nah, bro. Be great at whatever it is that you want to do. If you want to do underwater basket weaving, by all means, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
If whatever you want to do that and be great at that. But your identity is not mine. And so yes, you're a part of me, and I'm hoping I'm instilling great things in you, but I'm not going to live my life through you.
Yeah. I'm so glad you're saying this, and I hope all the moms can really hear it because you're not also doing your children any justice not being your best self, right?
100%. You say you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you are not your full self, if you're not happy, if you're not in a good place, and I posted a lot lately about that because it really took me a minute to understand that it's okay to not be okay. And sometimes those of us who seemingly outside looking have it all together don't. But we're holding it together because we've created this image of perfection that people are looking at, and we don't want to shatter that image for them. But in reality, if we tell them, yo, I'm not good, like I need somebody to talk to, I want to just unload all of this stuff that I'm feeling on someone else, that makes a world of difference because someone just hearing you say that may make a difference in them, and they're like, yeah, I'm not okay either. And they may just need to share some things. It may be not a call to action, not anything that you need to do except for listen. But so many times we
Yeah.
want to keep up appearances and images and not show ourselves being vulnerable. The example I use is I'll call you and say, Stephanie, I need $20 because I need to do blah. That's easy. Me calling you saying, Stephanie, like mentally, I am not all right. I don't know what's going on. I'm not sure what I'm feeling, but I'm not okay. That's hard. And
Yeah.
we have to get to a space as moms, just as women, period, to be able to say, yo, I'm not okay. And I don't know what I need, but if you could just listen. So
Awesome. That is real and that's beautiful. I'm so glad we're talking. This is powerful, and it makes me hopeful about the future of all the things that I'm going to talk about with you and with all the women I interview, of like how can we build more community, because there is power in just saying I'm not okay. And like, recently I know for me, I've gotten people like, oh, you doing everything okay? And I'm like, no, everything is not okay. And it's so freeing and it's so less exhausting and being like, yeah, everything is good when it's not. Being inauthentic or dishonest is exhausting. It is
it is
exhausting.
exhausting. It
It is
100% is.
exhausting. And I imagine for mothers, when you're already tired, it's just adding to it. So for all the mothers that are joining, if you're interested in creating some sense of community around motherhood, we can absolutely do that. And obviously, already has a lot of wisdom to share.
Listen,
Um,
I just wing it. That's that. I mean, I'm very real with that. Like I just wing it. There is no handbook. Nobody issues you at the hospital when they drop this baby in your hands. Hey, this is how you're supposed to do it. Like nobody does that. Like everybody has advice, and everybody can tell you what they did, but nobody can tell you how you're supposed to do it. And so you just do. Again, I go back to it all the time. What works for you. And so I'm happy to be a sounding board, to just listen, you know, whatever I can do. But like honestly, there is not a handbook, and nobody should feel like, oh, if I don't do it this way, then it's wrong. Because who am I to tell you how you're doing it is wrong?
yeah, yeah. I hope there'll be some opportunities to let go of some of the shame that exists in every part of identity, whether it's womanhood or motherhood or blackness. And I want to talk about that as well.
Okay.
I think we're probably going to go a little bit over time, so hopefully that's okay with you. And then
Yeah,
my
that's fine.
sister's okay. My sister's on. I'll tag you as soon as I'm done with Artie. I don't know if she's on here,
And
but
I'll stay on the call to text in if necessary, if people have questions and stuff as well.
oh, perfect. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Um, what has been your greatest joy as a mother?
Oh my gosh. There have been so many, but I think the the greatest is seeing them just develop their own individual personalities. It's crazy because my oldest son looks like me now. Like his facial features, his height, his everything looks like me in who you're seeing right now. However, my youngest son and I did a side by side when I was really young. He, we could have been twins. Like he looks like me when, I was really young. And so that's interesting. One. Then the flip side of that is the oldest, LJ, acts just like his dad. Like attitude, personality, everything. So his dad in so many ways. And then Andre, just like me. And so just watching them kind of come into their own and become their own individuals, even through the fact like they're about 2 years and 6 months apart. And so just watching how they interact with their friends and doing all of those things is crazy, but I love it. And so I think that's my greatest joy. And then just watching them accomplish things that they set out. And again, not for me, because I don't give a shit, play, don't play, I don't, whatever. But just them saying, oh, I want to do X, and then watching them achieve those goals has been probably the greatest joy.
That's wonderful. My sister was saying that's her answer to the seeing the personality develop and seeing how they come into themselves.
Yep.
What has been your greatest challenge as a mother?
I mean, honestly, and again, with the most recent situation that happened with the young man who was killed for just running, like I'm raising two young black men in America today. And it makes me emotional to talk about it because prior to this latest incident, I worked at a college, and that was when we had the Philander Castile situation, and like all of Eric Garner, all of those things that happened like right at once, right? And so having to try to explain to my kids, having that conversation, I guess it's just having that conversation that I know my colleagues aren't having to have with their kids. Making sure that they are safe, being hyper vigilant about where they go and who they're around, and making sure that we live in Boca Raton. Boca is not Liberty City. Boca is not Overtown. Boca is not Opelika. And so having to help them understand, you got to learn how to code switch from now. And that's
Mm-hmm.
tough. Like we had to have a whole conversation with the kids about code switching. Like, what is this world that we live in where I'm having a conversation with, at the time, a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old about what it means to code switch, which you can say certain things with this group of friends, and then you have to say certain things with this group of friends. And then when you go home to Alabama or Arkansas, you can talk like this. But then when you're home in our house, this is the expectation of how you talk. And then we need to make sure that you understand when it's appropriate to use those things and when it's safe and those types. So that's tough. Like that is really tough to have to explain to a kid that you can't just be you. Which, yeah, we encourage them to be who they are authentically as best as possible, but everybody's not going to understand or take you at 100%. So you don't water yourself down. Just don't give them all of who you are,
Mm.
because
I'll write that one down. I like that.
having a conversation with your teachers in school is going to be very different than having a conversation with your friends at school, which may be very different than having a conversation with the kids you play basketball with. So it's just a whole other world. And so trying to help them navigate the crazy that is, and this hyper polarized political climate doesn't help. The fact that people feel like it's okay to say certain things and be certain ways doesn't help. And the fact that, I listen, anybody can catch these hands, especially when it comes to my kids, don't help.
Yeah, no, that's a good wrap up message. Anybody, so two quotes. Anybody can catch these hands, and don't water yourself down. Just don't give them all of yourself. And I like that. I like that not just for code switching. I like that for relationships. I like that for the workplace. I like that for every part of life because some people are not deserving of all of yourself anyway. So
Let me give you the whole of that quote. It means these hands are rated E for everyone.
okay, I needed the full the ready to eat for everyone. Got it.
Yes, they're rated E for everyone because everybody can get it.
Yeah, I think that's another one that probably will resonate with my sister. And that was a question I was gonna ask you about. What does it feel like to raise black boys? Not even just now, like always.
It's scary. It really is scary. And again, just understanding that it's one of those things that I'm super proud of and I'm super happy for. And I have a really amazing husband. He does a great job with them and teaching them things and helping him to be, you know what I'm saying, what they should be, whether it's treating me correctly so they know how he they watch him and how he and I interact. And so we're trying to teach them lessons about how you engage with women. And we spend time with them separately as well as together. And we've gone on like what we call mom and son sushi runs and doing different things like that. So it's just me and them, and they understand opening doors and pulling out chairs and doing those types of things. But they also see what their father does and how he engages. So That's one thing. But I think the other piece of it too, and you're asking how is it, it's tough, it's scary, but it really is it is the joy of my life. And I've always wanted boys. Like that literally was my, when I said I wanted to have kids, I was like, first of all, I don't want to have another me because somebody wouldn't make it. And then two, it was just the fact that, to be real, condoms are cheaper than diapers. So hey, YOLO. I gotta worry about two penises. People who have little girls got to worry about all of them, and that's just
That's
so.
real. That's what that is. That it doesn't get realer than that. So if it was you and a little girl, somebody wasn't gonna make it. That's honest.
No,
Self
like that.
awareness. Yeah, you have to have self awareness too, right? For everything in
Somebody
life.
wouldn't have made it. Like I know how I was. I know the trouble I gave my mom. I know how sneaky I was. And those, if like I was the good kid, air quotes, compared to my sister who got away with everything, who was the baby. That's a whole nother conversation, but whatever. But seriously,
I'm the
like
baby too. I'm the baby too. So
so I know your sister can relate. So yeah, that's the thing. I'm just like, nah. I just, I couldn't do another me. She gonna want her nails done and her hair done. You got to worry about periods and proms and weddings and all that. Nope. Some sneakers and a haircut. That's all I got.
that's real. All right. So we got two more questions for you.
Okay.
What advice would you give to mothers or soon to be mothers or women that want to be mothers?
Um, I fundamentally believe you have to do what works for you. It is great to have the knowledge of the village and understanding that you do need a village. Like you need people who are going to be there for you, um, that you can trust and that whose word that you believe and you feel like, okay, this person has done it and I like what they've done with their kids and I like how their kids are turning out and those types of things. But it's so imperative to do what works for you. Like I had some friends that were like, oh, well, my kids go to bed at 8 o'clock. Well, great. If my kids go to bed at 8, they're gonna be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. If you want to come up here and stay with them at 3 o'clock in the morning, by all means, knock yourself out. But I'm not. That's not my testimony. I'm sorry if they don't go to bed to 9:30, and that keeps them sleep until 6:30, 7 o'clock. Then we're gonna let them go to bed at 9:30 because that's not what we're doing over here. So do what works for you. That's one. Two would be just know that it's okay to ask for help, and be that person that allows other people to call on you when they need help and trust. It's not easy for a mom to say, hey, I need a break, right? So if a mom comes to you or someone who has children comes to you and say, hey, I just need a timeout, if you can, be there for them, because like it takes a lot, because again it goes back to that shame and guilt and not being enough and so on and so forth. So if someone has is brave enough to come and say, hey, yo, Stephanie, could you watch the kids for like an hour? I just need an hour to myself. If you could do that for them, do that. And conversely, if you're the person who needs that hour, call somebody who you trust and say, hey, I need that hour. Like, don't be afraid to be like, yo, whether it's your partner, your spouse, whether it's your best friend, whatever the case may be, somebody who you trust to leave your children in the care of, call them and say, hey, I need a break. And don't be afraid to do that. It doesn't make you any less. It doesn't make you not a good mom. It doesn't make you not a good caregiver. It makes you human. And it really, really, really goes a long way, because that 1 hour could recharge you for the next 3 months. You just don't know.
Mm,
But if you need it, take it.
yeah, yeah. You have a lot of positive comments in the chat here. I don't know if you can see them, but a lot of people saying this resonates with them. This is what they needed to hear. So one last thing, I just wanted to ask you what your Mother's Day plans are and sharing that with our
So
listeners.
Um, honestly, we are. I guess I say weird. I don't know if weird is the right way to categorize it, but we genuinely are like holidays. Like I'm big on Halloween. I love Halloween, but Mother's Day and those types of things aren't really that big of a deal. And the reason that I say that is because we are raising our kids to believe that every day is a holiday. So it doesn't take a special occasion for you to celebrate the people that you love. So if you are out and you see something you think I might like, you get that. Or if you feel today that you love me, then you tell me that. Or, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the case may be. So it's not necessarily a requirement to do something special. Birthdays are big because we really do celebrate, you know, people making, you know, the next evolution around the earth. And that's a big thing for us, but holidays specifically aren't huge. They always do something, whether it's a card or a dinner or something at home, but you know, we're not big on holidays, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we are truly about loving on each other all the time, and just
Yeah.
really expressing the love that we have for each other. um whenever it's not, it doesn't require a special day to say, hey, I appreciate you, or I love you, or I, you know, thank you for doing what you do, kind of thing. It's more or less, hey, I love you all the time, and so this is another day, and if you want, you know, some crab legs or something, we'll get them. But we could get them last Sunday, we can get them next Sunday. That ain't no big deal. So, so
Yeah.
no real plans, especially since outside is closed. You know, it ain't like we could do nothing for real anyway. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Throwing out some feelers for those crab legs tomorrow.
just in case
I mean,
somebody, you know what I'm saying,
I'm
just in
never
case.
turning down crab legs either. Not gonna do
Never,
that.
never,
Not gonna be turning that down. We should all be loving on each other all the time.
all
I'm
the
gonna write that
time.
one down too. And if people haven't learned that through this experience, I don't know what we'll teach them.
Exactly. I agree 1,000%. And like I said, I will be here. Like, I'm not gonna leave. I'm gonna sign off so that you can sign on with your sister for the live. But I'll still be here in the chat. And anybody that's on, feel free, text me, you know, or DM me or whatever. But I'm here for whatever you need, conversations, questions, anything. Like I said, I don't have any answers. I can tell you what works for me. I can tell you what I think. But other than that, you know, hey, we'll figure this thing out together because
I
nobody has
think
all the answers. That's just facts.
I think just someone being we just had a really
Yep.
good conversation with Artie. I'm glad you were able to, you know, sometimes that's enough. So